Imagine this. You're sitting in a cafe sipping your coffee when your girlfriend's best friend leans back in her chair and jokes, loud enough for the whole table to hear, "Wow, your car looks like it was built before Wi-Fi even existed." Everyone laughs. You force a smile. But deep down, you know, she's been taking shots at you since day one. And the worst part? She's been taking your money too. But not for long. If you've ever had someone mock you while living off your kindness, this one's for you. Hit that like button, subscribe, and stick around, because by the end of this story she won't just stop taking my money, she'll be paying her own way for the first time in her life. When I started my second year of college, I thought I had my life mapped out, at least as much as any 20-year-old can. I wasn't living in luxury, but I was living in balance. I had a girlfriend I genuinely loved, a part-time job at the campus library that covered my rent and grocery bills, and a small, tight-knit group of friends. My days had rhythm. Morning classes, quick coffee breaks, evening shifts, and weekend movie nights. Life felt stable, predictable, safe. And then, she appeared. It was one Friday afternoon in late September when my girlfriend said, "Hey, I want you to meet someone, she's my best friend." She sounded excited, almost like she'd been waiting for this introduction. I agreed without hesitation. I'm not the type to dislike people without giving them a chance, especially if they matter to someone I care about. The first meeting was at a small coffee shop just off campus. The moment she walked in, I noticed her confidence, or maybe arrogance. She had that effortless, curated style, glossy hair, a brand-name tote bag slung over her shoulder, and the kind of makeup that looked expensive without trying too hard. She flashed a smile, but her eyes carried a quick scan, like she was sizing me up before I'd even spoken. We exchanged polite greetings, ordered drinks, and sat down. The first 10 minutes were harmless. Small talk about classes, professors, and campus events. But then came the comments. Little digs. The kind you can almost miss if you're not paying attention. When she noticed my old Android phone, she smirked. "Wow, vintage. Does it still have, like, buttons?" I chuckled lightly, brushing it off. Later, when my girlfriend complimented my shirt, she added, "Yeah, it's cute. Did you get it from a thrift store?" The tone was light, but the undertone was sharp. I told myself not to overthink it. Maybe she just had a blunt sense of humor. But my gut was already uneasy. The moment that really stuck with me happened outside as we were leaving. She spotted my car, a beat-up silver Honda Civic that had carried me through high school and into college. She tilted her head and grinned. "That thing looks like it was built before Wi-Fi even existed." Everyone laughed. I did too. But inside I felt the sting. It wasn't just a joke, it was a jab at who I was and what I had. The thing is, I wasn't embarrassed about my car. I was proud of it. I'd bought it used with money I'd earned from summer jobs. It wasn't flashy, but it was mine. Still, that comment sat in my chest like a tiny splinter I couldn't quite remove. Over the next few weeks, our paths crossed more often. She started joining our coffee runs, our late-night snack trips, even casual hangouts at my girlfriend's apartment. And with every meeting, the comments piled up, each one small enough to dismiss individually, but together forming a pattern I couldn't ignore. Then came the moment that shifted things from mildly irritating to something else entirely. It was a Thursday evening, and a group of us met at a cafe to study. When the check came, I grabbed it and said, "Don't worry, I've got this." It wasn't a big deal to me. I like surprising friends with small gestures. Everyone thanked me, but I noticed her glance at my girlfriend with a little smirk, like she'd just won something. The next time we went out, she forgot her wallet. No big deal, I thought. These things happen. I covered her again. But soon it became a pattern. Her wallet was always missing, her phone conveniently dead, so she couldn't pay through an app. And each time she'd shoot that same little glance at my girlfriend. At first, I told myself I was overanalyzing. But deep down, I knew she wasn't just forgetful. She was testing boundaries. Mine specifically. I didn't realize it then, but this was only the beginning. The money part, that was about to get worse. Much worse. It happened on an otherwise ordinary Tuesday night. My girlfriend texted me, "Hey, me and her best friend's name are planning a weekend trip. You should come." At first I thought it sounded nice until I asked how much. "About $300 total," she said casually, like it was pocket change. "We'll split gas, hotel, and food. It'll be fun." My heart sank. $300? That wasn't just fun money to me. It was 2 weeks worth of groceries, a month of utilities, or a quarter of my rent. I tried to keep my voice calm as I explained, "I can't swing that right now. I've got bills coming up and my hours at work just got cut. You two should still go though." She seemed to take it well, or so I thought. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with a message from one of our mutual friends. Dude, I heard best friend's name, calling you cheap. What's that about? I froze. Cheap. It didn't make sense. I wasn't being reckless with money, I was being careful, because I had to be. My parents weren't in a position to bail me out. Every dollar I earned mattered. When I asked my girlfriend about it later, she hesitated. Yeah, she might have said something. She told me it was kind of a red flag that you wouldn't go. She thinks you might be broke. Broke? The word hit me like a slap. Not just because of the insult, but because of the hypocrisy. This was coming from the same girl who regularly bragged about shopping sprees at Zara and dropping ridiculous amounts at Sephora. I let it slide, for about 30 seconds, before curiosity got the better of me. So, how did she afford the trip then? That's when my girlfriend looked away, almost guilty. She didn't, she admitted. I covered her. The irony was staggering. The same person calling me cheap for not throwing $300 at a last-minute trip had to mooch off my girlfriend to go herself. And the thing is, this wasn't a one-time thing. Over the weeks, I started noticing a pattern. She was never the one offering to grab the bill. If we were out somewhere and the check came, her hand went nowhere near her bag. If someone suggested ordering food in, she'd suddenly get very interested in her phone until the payment was handled. I started connecting the dots. Those little forgot my wallet moments? Not accidents. Those glances at my girlfriend after I paid? Not harmless. She was playing a game. One where other people's generosity kept her lifestyle running while she chipped away at my dignity with little comments. The worst part? I could feel her trying to wedge herself between me and my girlfriend. Not in a romantic way, but in a way that made her opinion about me feel like it mattered more than it should. She was planting seeds of doubt. Cheap, broke, not good enough. I kept telling myself I'd just rise above it. That ignoring her would be the mature thing to do. But the truth? It was eating at me. I'd lie awake at night replaying those moments in my head. The smirk when I pulled out my card, the fake surprise when she forgot her wallet, the digs about my car, my phone, my clothes. That I wasn't just being mocked. I was being used. And that combination. That's when something in me shifted. That I realized I didn't have to confront her to get even. That I didn't have to make a scene or win some argument. That I just had to make one quiet, deliberate change. From that moment on, I decided she would never get another cent from me. Not for coffee. Not for snacks. Not for anything, and I was going to make sure she noticed. Once I made the decision, it was like flipping a switch. The next time we all went out together, I was ready. I'd already downloaded an expense tracker app called Fizz to log every single thing I spent. Not just to keep my budget tight, but to make sure there was zero chance she could pull the "oh, I'll pay you back later" card. There would be no later. It started small. A week after that trip debacle, we were at our usual coffee spot. We just settled into the worn leather chairs when she sighed dramatically and patted her pockets. "Oh no, I think I left my wallet at home again," she said, looking right at me like she always did. Old me would have jumped in instantly. "Don't worry, I've got you." Knew me? I just smiled politely. "That's okay," I said. "I'm sure you can grab it next time." And then I walked up to the counter and ordered my drink. Just mine. No hesitation. No awkward apology. When I came back to the table, she was quiet. Not the comfortable kind of quiet. More like she didn't quite know what to say. She ended up ordering a small coffee and paying with crumpled bills from the bottom of her tote bag. Inside, I was grinning. Over the next 2 weeks, I made sure to stick to my rule. If we were out and she hinted at me covering something, I'd respond with the same line, "No worries, you can get it next time." Or if she really pressed, "Sorry, I'm on a tight budget this week," I'd say it casually, like it was just a fact, not a pointed jab. The more I did it, the more I noticed little shifts in her behavior. She stopped ordering the most expensive thing on the menu. She started pulling her phone out right away when the check landed. And most importantly, the smirks disappeared. But the real satisfaction came one night at my girlfriend's apartment. A group of us had decided to order pizza. Normally, she'd just sit back, let someone else handle the payment, and promise to Venmo them later. This time, I watched as the total popped up on the delivery app. Without missing a beat, she pulled out her debit card. No hesitation. No fake surprise. It was like watching someone finally realize the free ride was over. And my girlfriend noticed. 2.1 afternoon, she leaned over while we were walking to class and said, "It's so weird, she's actually been paying for her own stuff lately." I didn't even know she could. We both laughed, but inside I felt a quiet kind of vindication. Here's the thing. Revenge doesn't always have to be loud. Sometimes it's just about quietly taking back control, setting a boundary so firmly that the other person has no choice but to adapt. And honestly, it was easier than I expected. No fights. No messy drama. Just No more access to my wallet. Of course, that didn't mean she liked it. The little sighs, the subtle glances, she thought I wouldn't notice, but I did. She wasn't used to this version of me, and in a way that was the best part, because the more uncomfortable she got, the more I knew my plan was working. The real test, though, was still ahead. I was about to find out just how much she hated losing her favorite ATM, me. By week 3 of my silent revenge, the shift in our dynamic was undeniable. She wasn't smiling as much around me, not that fake, self-satisfied smirk she used to flash when I pulled out my card. Now there was a tightness to her face, like she was constantly trying to figure out what changed. The first real pushback happened during a late-night diner. It was one of those impulsive group decisions. Someone said pancakes at midnight, and 10 minutes later, we were in a booth under fluorescent lights, the smell of frying bacon in the air. When the bill landed, it sat in the middle of the table for a moment. Normally this is when she'd slide it toward me or my girlfriend. But this time, she looked right at me. "So, are we splitting this?" she asked, tilting her head like she already knew the answer she wanted. I met her gaze. "Yeah. What's your total?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Oh, I'll figure it out." She pulled out her phone, suddenly fascinated by the calculator app. It might sound small, but that was the moment I knew she was testing me, seeing if I'd crack, if I'd slip back into old habits. I didn't. After that, the comments started making a comeback. One afternoon, while my girlfriend and I were meeting her at a cafe, she glanced at my phone and said, "Wow, still rocking the prehistoric model, huh?" I just smiled and took a sip of my coffee. Not a single bite. I wasn't giving her the satisfaction of a reaction. The truth is, her jabs were losing their power. When I stopped funding her lifestyle, the sting of her words faded too. It's hard to feel insulted by someone who can't even pay for their own cappuccino without flinching. But she didn't stop trying. A week later, she pulled her old trick again, patting her pockets and sighing. "Shoot, I left my wallet at home." Old me would have rolled my eyes, reached for my card, and covered it just to avoid awkwardness. This time I said, "No problem. I'll grab my drink and you can order after you grab yours from your car." She blinked. "It's not in my car." "Then I guess next time," I said lightly, walking to the counter. My girlfriend shot me a curious look but didn't say a word. Later, she told me she'd noticed I'd stopped covering for her friend. "Honestly," she said, "it's kind of refreshing watching her actually take responsibility." I wasn't doing it for applause, but I'd be lying if I said that didn't feel good to hear. Why now? Her behavior had shifted completely. She no longer assumed I'd cover anything. She pulled her card out faster, ordered cheaper items, and most importantly, stopped inviting herself to things that might cost her money. The power balance had flipped. She'd gone from comfortable entitlement to cautious self-preservation, and all it took was my silence and a firm boundary. Still, part of me wondered, would she ever actually acknowledge the change? Would she admit she noticed? Or would she just keep pretending nothing had shifted while quietly adjusting to her new reality? I didn't have to wait long to find out, because the very next week, the payoff came. It happened on a rainy Friday evening. We'd been stuck inside all day, so my girlfriend suggested we grab dinner at a little Italian place near campus. When we got there, her best friend was already sitting at a table, scrolling through her phone like she owned the place. The three of us ordered, nothing fancy, just pasta, drinks, and dessert. The conversation was surface level. I didn't bother engaging much beyond polite nods and the occasional laugh. I could feel that subtle tension in the air, the kind that comes when someone knows the rules have changed but doesn't want to acknowledge it. When the bill came, the server set it neatly between us. I glanced at it, pulled out my wallet, and set down cash for exactly my portion. Not a penny more. She looked at me, her fork still in her hand. "Oh, so we're all just paying separately now?" Her voice had that mix of confusion and irritation, like she was trying to make it sound casual but couldn't quite hide her annoyance. "Yeah," I said evenly. "Easier that way. No mix-ups." For a moment she didn't move. Then she slowly reached into her designer tote and pulled out her wallet, the same wallet she'd been forgetting for months when we first met. She peeled off a few bills, counted them twice, and laid them on the table. And here's the part that sealed it for me. She had to dig into the little zippered coin section to get the last dollar. The girl who once smirked at my car and my phone was now scraping together change to cover her dinner. Inside, I felt that warm, quiet satisfaction spread through me. I didn't need to humiliate her or win some big confrontation. The win was right there, in her finally having to pay her own way without expecting me to step in. After dinner, as we walked out into the drizzle, my girlfriend leaned toward me and whispered, "It's weird, but I think she's actually embarrassed." I shrugged, keeping my voice light. Sometimes people just need to adjust. That was the beauty of it. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't made it dramatic. I just shut the door to my generosity and left it closed. No free rides. No unearned favors. No access. From then on, she stopped tagging along to every outing. When she did show up, she paid for herself without being prompted. And the digs? They became rare, like she'd realized she couldn't take shots at me and still expect me to bankroll her fun. In the end, I learned something important. You don't have to fight every battle head on. You don't have to convince someone to respect you. Sometimes you just quietly take away what they're using you for, and let them feel the absence. My life went back to feeling balanced. And every time I saw her pull out that wallet now, I knew she remembered the days she thought she had me on tap. Those days were over. For good.